Hey friends, welcome to the Equipping Podcast from Citylight Church in Omaha. Our goal is to help you grow in wisdom and love for God and neighbor. We hope this episode encourages you in your walk with God.
Yeah.
So
I want to see this on because you guys are the equipping directors at Citylight. So this is a great, I get to ask the really hard questions. So I don't have a job.
And who are you? Why are you even here?
Exactly. And so I work in the private sector. I work as a manager at a company, and it's got, one of my, like a trigger word that you could say.
Smart.
KPIs.
Oh, KPIs,
right? Key performance indicators. Mm-hmm. And that is just a question that we live with. It's a question I know, for better or for worse, I know very clearly how to know when I succeeded at work. I have numbers that I hit or I don't. Yep. And so in the church...
Yeah, we can relate to that a ton. Yeah.
That's what I want to ask.
That's exactly how it is for us.
That's what I want to ask, is in the church... I've heard, oh man, where was it? At some conference or something, I was sitting and talking with somebody, and they were talking about the 3 B's? Butts, bucks, and baptisms.
There you go.
There was some pastor, some mega church pastor was like, all I care about is butts, bucks, and baptisms. And that's countable. We shrink away from that.
We heard the baptism thing recently at something we were at. Yeah.
So that's gross, right? We don't like that. But...
But what else?
Well,
what else is there?
No, but I mean, like, how? So the question is sort of like really broad. How do we? How do you? And how do we? How do big churches? How do little churches? How does the Christian church in America know if it's discipling well, and how? Because that's actually a really important question for a business. I as much as I hate KPIs, because unless you can answer the question of whether you're doing something well, you can't answer what it would take to do better.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And so I guess that's the topic today, right? Is what does it take to put numbers on, or should you put numbers on, or what numbers should they be? How would you know? How do you measure good discipleship?
And there's a more fundamental question too, which is that it is at least possible that the measurable things are actually not what's most essential,
or even contrary to what's essential.
It could run
measuring
against
them actually hurts, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a lesson that we see in Israel with the numbers and the censuses, but it seems like about half the time when they take a census, it's a grave sin.
Well,
right,
and
plagues involved.
And just, I mean, like even in the business world, I mean, you see some key performance indicators that have driven companies just completely into the ground or culturally just disintegrated them, right?
Yeah. Well, and as much as we would like to say numbers, we don't really care about the numbers. Right. We're still measured by the numbers. Yeah. How many people showed up at an event? How many people are in our equipping spaces? How many people are in our Bible studies? But yet we see like these big mega churches, are they truly developing and investing in discipleship? And what does that look like? What does that really look like? I think that's a question for everybody, every church. And I would argue that, yes, bigger is not always better. However, when we think about discipleship equipping spaces and Bible studies, at least we have bodies in them. If our curriculum and if our content is good, at least they're getting something. But how do we know that they're living it out?
Right. So there was so it was actually, I think it was at that conference that we were talking, and I think everybody was talking about this theoretical.
You're talking about the training collective. Yeah. So that's
at that. I think.
Sorry,
I didn't get to go, but that's okay.
So I think, and I hope he doesn't mind me name dropping him. I'm almost positive he would, just based on his personality. But John Bryant was there, and he was I had such a good time having just good conversations with him. And I think one of the things
and John Bryant, by the way, wrote A Quiet Mind to Suffer With, which was a CT Christianity Today award-winning book. So he's
we should have
known author.
Thought ahead and put it out here. You should exactly. Click here to buy more. No, he's well worth engaging.
But he also is essentially like a street pastor,
like a
homeless
chaplain.
people.
I thought was a really good description for it. Yeah,
in Pittsburgh. Yeah,
and part of that conversation, I liked what he said toward the end. And again, I hate to misrepresent him, so I'm just going to say what I liked, what I got out of it. But he said something to the effect of, he kind of came in with a bit of a chip on his shoulder about big churches. He's not. He doesn't operate in a big church environment at all, and yet this environment was how do really big churches deal with deep growth?
Right.
Broad growth, broad numbers are easy, but how do they deal with deep growth and deep roots? And he came in with a bit of a chip on his shoulder with this sort of like, I don't know, maybe just have smaller churches or something. Like
just
split up.
Stop it.
Stop being this way. But by the end of it, of course, and I agreed with him. It was so beautiful to see people really actively engaging in this deep, heartfelt conversation of how do we serve the people that we have in front of us. And the image that stuck with me, I think he said it, but maybe it was just something that came to me, was Jesus feeding the 5,000, right? It's like, well, these are the people that we have here. And it wouldn't be responsible to just be like, go away, find a small church. Like maybe this isn't the ideal way for someone
although
be churched.
he did to another crowd say, hey, you're going to have to eat my flesh and drink my blood.
Yeah, for sure.
And they're all like, this is a weirdo.
Jesus wasn't always running after numbers. In fact, did things actively to pare down the numbers in places.
Right.
But I guess my point is sort of there was a feeling of like, you do have an audience, and whatever this audience is, for better or for worse, you have a group of 3,000 people who are showing up. You should serve them. Like whatever you were planning on doing, whatever my sensibilities are towards a small church, whatever your natural inclination is, you have this people in front of you.
Right.
And how do you, and it was, I agree with him, it was beautiful to see that sort of, to see that group of people sort of agonizing over how do we do this well. And how do we be responsible with?
Well, and particularly because most of the folks that are represented at the training collective were
big churches.
Bigger
than ours.
Citylight was the little one.
Right, exactly.
Citylight was the little brother, little sister.
I think what we're sort of hovering around is this idea that maybe size inhibits the formation of a certain type of disciple, and that needs to be formed in a smaller context. But then it's this tension, because if you just establish things that are small for that smaller context, you're basically relinquishing your stewardship, like of this group of people who are gathered, right? And so, I think that's kind of our starting point, is that we feel that tension,
right?
But the question then is like, how do you decide? I mean, let's say you've got a choice between, basically growing the large group by 4%, or, maybe taking 10 people and they grow 80%, towards your maybe ideal disciple, like which is more valuable. And there's even something in the way that you framed that feeding the 5,000, which is important, which is Jesus did feed them and spoke to them and then actually
taught them.
He taught them, but then he got out of there.
Oh yeah.
And he went off alone, and then he rejoined his 12 that he spent basically all of his time with over the 3 years.
Right.
And so it feels to me like Jesus both had a sort of big group facing ministry, but then also a very focused and intentional and prioritized ministry to this small group, right?
That's right. Yeah, exactly. And the 5,000 wasn't considered really like a community, right?
Sure.
And so, hopefully they found that community in smaller ways, in smaller situations. But I, if I think about Citylight and I look at, I'm from West, we're growing. I know Midtown's growing, right? And yet most of them are not in city groups. Most of them are not in our spaces. And so what's drawing them?
Yeah, I mean,
that's the question, right?
The donuts.
Right?
The
No,
donuts.
it can't be the donuts.
No.
It cannot be the donuts because they're not that great.
I know. I was having a conversation with Beth, and there's some vehement feelings about donuts going around the church right now. Apparently.
Oh well.
Always.
Beth stirred up a lot of controversy by suggesting that we take a month off of donuts, which everybody shouted her down.
Yes, that would not be very popular. No.
Yeah, it's one of those. I think I don't remember what the number is.
Gnashing and wailing from like preteens and teenagers over that.
And I wouldn't want to highlight the number on a podcast anyway, but I do think it's funny. I think it was one of the business directors at some point a couple of years ago said, if we didn't do donuts already, and you asked Citylight, hey, we want to spend X amount of thousands of dollars a year on donuts.
Yeah.
would you be willing? Is this a thing we should spend our money on? And like the answer would just almost certainly be no.
Yeah.
And yet it's been, we've had done it since our inception, since it was in a house, right? And so essentially this is like donuts are in the DNA.
Yeah.
Citylight,
well,
which is funny.
I think hospitality is in the DNA.
Yeah.
I mean, this is why we had the espresso machine earlier.
Right.
But no, what I want to do is maybe I'm just proposing this, and you guys can tell me what you think. But I think I want to tease out this tension that we feel, and what I want to like, I think I don't want to speak for you, but I think that both of us are sort of like, if we've got to do both of these, like, we certainly should not leave undone the small setting,
right?
Yet everything about our job sort of pushes us this way,
correct?
Because
towards the big setting,
right? And but part of the reason I think that we really crave and want to build those smaller settings is that there. I'll just speak for myself here. I've been in those settings where I've found the growth of my Christian life to go from like I didn't know what I was missing. Like all of a sudden, just boom, just huge changes. The scriptures come alive, or like my sense of my own sin, and I don't mean like that I hate myself more. I mean like the weird ways that my sort of heart is twisted, and I'm
clear.
Yeah, like become like clear, and it's almost like you see those videos of colorblind people putting those glasses on. They're just like, whoa, I've had that from books that I've read, from going to seminary, from being involved in deep discussion with especially other men in various churches that I've been a part of. And I want people to have that experience of like putting on the glasses, right? And so I think, what we're trying to do is we're trying to do this part while also moving more towards this. Right. But the risk for us, I think, that we both feel, is that this is what we're measured on, and this is almost impossible to measure. So I guess maybe there's a few different questions. Number one is, are you with me on like the value of this?
100%.
And how do we even communicate what we're trying to do, or are there ways of measuring this? Does that make sense? I don't know. Open forum. Go ahead.
Okay.
So again, looking at it from sort of a corporate American perspective, right? And I'm not saying this is the right way to look at it, by the way, but just like, what would be if you propose this same problem in the boardroom that in that conversation, the answer would be, find KPIs for the small, right? Like figure out how to measure success of, in this case, the small, 8 to 10 deep rooted, really good discipleship that is going to have a profound impact that it's going to ripple through the church and in yourself, but also is going to have that effect on others and help them put on the glasses and so forth.
So we have something. It's
a disagreement here.
No,
there's a
weak
gesture at it. Which what is our metric? 75% plus say I have grown as a result of this study.
Right.
Which,
well, let me ask you. Okay, like if you asked, or if you sat back and looked at Jesus's ministry, what would determine success?
Yeah.
That they went out and started churches. That
what if
your
boss said, "Jesus, I need a KPI."
Yeah. Like, what would Jesus's? I mean, it goes back to numbers, doesn't it?
Whatever it would be,
you
would
got Peter,
have to be
you got James, you got John.
You
spend all this time with them.
Allow for at least 2 people to completely abandon and betray.
Right.
At the end.
10% or 20%, right?
So there'd be a
right.
Judas
like,
and Peter.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
I mean, honestly, if you go back to it, it's, Day of Pentecost, 3,000 souls were saved.
Right.
Yeah.
So we were talking before we started this a little bit about something else that I'm going through right now. And we were just comparing, AA and things like that. And I think a KPI or a idea that would be worth thinking about is that sort of germination or virality or reproducibility. That, does it just stop with the person that came to class, or did they do something?
Sure.
And I do think you'd see that with the if you were trying to find KPIs for the disciples, what would we see? In fact, one of the
virality of their faith.
Yeah, one of the great
not in the sense we're used to, but like the that what they become is contagious.
Yeah. And I think we see that. In fact, it's one of the great apologetic points or defenses of the validity of Christ is that these 12 men or 11 of the 12 men who knew him through his stuff, including his brother and Pharisee opposition, after encountering him, were willing to die for
most of them
at least believing that he was resurrected. If not, regardless of what happened, 11 out of 12 people believe that he resurrected enough that they were willing to die for it. And so there's an element of virality and life change. Right?
Sure.
And it's a life change outside of church. It's a life change that's like, we were just talking about everything. We were talking about that Ben Sass interview too. It's a life change element where you look at it and go, oh, what I'm doing doesn't matter. Right? Because that's one of the things it's funny, at some point the guy asks him, like, what led you to stop being a legislator? And he said, it doesn't matter. Of the things that are important in my life right now, it was raising my teenage son and impacting other youth in a way. He went to become a college professor or a college dean or something, but
college president.
Okay. But so basically he had which is funny to look at and say, being a United States senator doesn't matter right now. Being a father and a president of a university, this is the real work.
Right.
But I think that's something like what the disciples did, right? They said, oh, this doesn't matter. Peter, I think that's one of the interesting struggles we see with Peter all the way through the Gospels, is that he seems to keep going back to fishing right up until the end. Even in John, until after Christ's resurrection, Peter several times seems to return to fishing because he's doing what he's doing, but you got to earn a living. You got to do the thing, go back to what you're good at, go back to what you're used to. And there's a point where Peter says, oh, fish don't matter. Right?
Right.
And so I don't know if that I hate to impose an impossible metric because ask everyone to go, oh,
right. Are you willing to die?
Being a middle
like
manager
tomorrow.
at your company doesn't matter.
Right.
I don't know. Is that the standard?
Yeah.
Well, I think it's a good suggestion. I think both the general idea of virality, but also, maybe the specific manifestation of it. But I think, as we think about our own jobs, like, I think both of us are like, we want to invest here. I think that Citylight has structures already that invest there. Like city groups, the whole point is to get small, right? To get small in a way that it was, I don't know, maybe I'm making this up, but the one-stop discipleship shop was the city group, right?
It kind of morphed since equipping became a rhythm.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It used to be a Bible study, community, mission, all of the above. And then, but really, I mean, those groups are to make it smaller, to make our church, big church, small again.
To address the small church.
Exactly.
needs.
And it may not be Bible study, but they're reading the word and growing. And, the hard part is maybe 30% of our church is in city groups.
Well, and I wonder if that's, not to...
It might be that that's good compared to other churches.
Right.
Or even just that's just the way it is. That's just the way it must be. That's we're comparing Jesus's ministry, right? And there's two, we mentioned feeding the 5,000, and we mentioned him saying, this is my, you must eat my body, drink my blood, and almost everybody left, except for people who said literally, well, what else could we do? That's not a resounding endorsement when your crew, by the way, says, well, I don't know anyone else, so I guess we'll stay with you, which isn't quite what they said, but I think that there is, we do see, we talk about that a lot with Jesus' very, very close 3, right? And then he's got his 12, and then he's got his 72 and then maybe
Yeah.
5,000, right? And so it's probably not unrealistic to expect most organizations, most circles to have waves like that, and to not get upset that the 3,000 aren't doing what the 300 are doing, or the 300 aren't
you
doing
got
what
different
the 12
levels
are doing.
of,
It's probably natural that
Right.
you're only going to have.
I think that there's an inherent tension in what we call discipleship equipping, in that there's a tendency to look at it two ways and use the same words. So on the one hand, I think all of us agree, and we're all very active in discipleship equipping spaces, that this is not just about education. Like being a disciple is not just about learning. It's also about doing and loving and being faithful to other people. And so, like, on the one hand, a disciple is very holistic. You see that in Jesus' ministry, right? Like he was not just teaching. In fact, some of the times when he taught, he was like being intentionally obscure to try and raise more curiosity, in people. But so, like, yes, Pennington's book's behind me. Jesus is the great philosopher. Like, he's a great teacher, and he's called teacher, and he's a rabbi, but he also was modeling and inviting others to do the work of the ministry. So there's a broad sense in which discipleship equipping like just overlaps with all the ministries, in the sense that we're all just trying to do all these things, right? And then there's a narrower sense in which discipleship equipping is really about knowledge. It's about cultivating wisdom. Like, do I know things? Can I remember them? Can I communicate them? Is my mind structured so that I can think well about the Bible and about knowing myself and about the world? And I think that's, like, when we get down to it, that's what we're really after. But what that tends to do is it tends to create classroom spaces, which, speaking for myself, tend to be pretty dissatisfying because it's not that sort of depth of relationship where you're offering a holistic thing. You're offering just one piece that's sort of injected.
You're not walking together, tasting the grain, arguing about it, and then objecting to the Pharisee who makes the statement.
Yep.
You're just talking about the grain. From
Right.
You're doing one piece of all these things.
Right.
We're talking about picking grain, what that might mean theologically.
Right. I mean, I think it also, I don't know, there's got to be some component where, our investment, our work is really, I don't know, raising up leaders who will have those home groups, who will have, I mean, I remember 30 years ago, I was in a home group at night with a bunch of women, and I remember, like you said, growing exponentially in that, being able to ask really hard questions and wrestling with those, and then going back and applying it to my life, and having my whole world view change.
Right.
And maybe, if, like, it's about multiplying ourselves, right? So that others will get the vision, like you were talking about with Simon Sinek, little resources, but you don't need a lot. If one woman invites 8 women into her home for a specific time, and then we, again, are trying to multiply ourselves.
I wonder if what we're looking for, so I have a weird visual in my head here, so just bear with me while I try to explain it. But
brace yourself.
Yeah, sorry. I have dry erase marker. I try to make it easier. But if you picture these circles, right? Circles of people. You've got your 3,000 or whatever, and your 300, and your 30, and your 3 or whatever, 10. Yeah. So I wonder if what we're looking for, what we're thinking about, would be mechanisms. It's like a certain amount of the ministry and the work is just done toward the 3,000. A certain amount of the ministry and the work is done toward the 300.
Right.
And it seems like most of our discipleship spaces are either in the 300 or the 30 space, right? Like they're targeted at and calling for people from the 3,000, but a lot of times it's really going to be 300 or 30 that you're going to be dealing with,
Sure.
right? To use, broadly speaking, these really broad numbers. So I wonder if the mechanism that we're looking for, that we need to maybe identify at every level and at every event and everything that we do, would be what is the, imagine if you've got this like sand or these people that make up these circles, you've got like a comb sort of scraping through and pushing you toward sort of a porous boundary from the 3,000 to the 300.
Oh, sure.
So it's just like, hey, we're doing the
moving people further up and further in.
Yeah, we're doing the big
Lewis would
3,000
say.
thing, and it's super exciting. But then every now and then in that 3,000 thing, we use the platform to sort of run a rake through it and just draw people toward the 300. And then we go back to doing the 3,000 thing and everything else. And so when we do that, that would be like your stage announcements, right? At church would be like, hey, we've got this, we've got this, trying to call you toward the 300 or the 330 thing. But then also maybe the question is, and I think we've tried to deal with this a little bit, certainly in men's Bible study, and probably in the women's one too, where we spend some time at the 30 level where we're pulling on that and saying, how can you join the 3 level?
Right.
How can you get involved in the
30 is too big. Like I think 12 is really what.
Right. That's what I'm saying. I was using the Bible study as a 30. I think it's more like 60 or whatever. But if the Bible study, if the 30 guys of the Bible were drawing people toward that 3, what can you do to make sure that after this Bible study is over, for example, 2 or 3 of you guys from your table continue having coffee every once a week.
But again, like I think I just want to be clear about.
And is there a mechanism to draw people from level to level?
Right. But I think this is where the confusion between what groups is and equipping is runs, because equipping is about teaching. And what maybe just to sort of set the table first, I think what teaching does is it gives a level of intentionality and vision to what you're doing. It's the framing mechanism. So let me just maybe an example. So week by week we do communion, but before we do communion, we always talk about what it means.
Right.
And what we're trying to do is we're trying to frame in people's minds, what is this? What who instituted it? What is it for? What's it supposed to do to you? So we're teaching so that they step into practice. And really, I think that's what we're after is we're after people who can do that for other people in a way that it just transforms the way that they see,
right?
Not just communion, but work and all the things that we do from in our lives. So we're not just pulling people into groups. What we're trying to do, and this is where
I think I get you, but
but let me finish, because I think that probably some of the discomfort that we feel is we don't get actually smaller than 30. Like we I think with our teacher pipeline, we're doing this a little, but like we're not really engaged in that 3 and 12 sphere.
But I don't
in a
think
way
you
that
can, and I don't mean that in a negative way. I don't think. I think so. I'll there's 2 relationships, two groups that I've been a part of, and I know we're talking groups versus teaching or whatever, but there's 2 groups that I've been a part of that were 3 or 4 people each. One was, when I was in high school, I painted for a living, and I worked for a pastor who painted on the side. And then he had 2 or 3 guys my age who basically the conversations we had while
you
we
were not
painting,
like a studio artist. You were painting walls.
Painting walls.
Okay,
that's
yeah,
right.
just what.
Painting houses.
For a moment, I was envisioning something, and I was like, no, that's not right. So
painting houses. But the conversations we had were long, day long. Literally walking together. We weren't eating grains of heads off the grains as we were walking, but that's essentially what we were doing. We were having these long, days long conversations about what it was to be a man and to provide for our families.
With someone who had the gift of teaching.
With someone who had the gift of teaching.
Yeah.
The other one that I've been in like this was also it actually came from our city group, and it was a desire to create a huddle. And the huddle, we started off with sort of arbitrarily these 4 people, and then it sort of settled into 2 of those and and a couple other people that sort of became the huddle. And same thing, we had these long, deep conversations. I would argue that there was teaching involved there, but there was long conversations where we hashed things out and argued about things and told the truth and confessed and did these other things. And both of those were really good, but I don't think you could, you can't tell everybody that the however many staff there are at Citylight, each of you take 3 people and we'll cover the first off, the numbers don't work. Right. But even if they did work, you can't take them and say each of you take 3 people.
But I think you're losing.
This.
I think you're losing sight of the distinction that I'm making, though, because I think what Karen and I would both say that we think we have the gift of teaching, and we don't think that the gift of teaching is the only gift that's important for the church.
Certainly,
but we do feel like, as teachers, our job is to cultivate other teachers. And that doesn't just mean standing up in front of stage. It means the painting conversations that you're having with that pastor.
Well, I guess what I'm trying to say is I think that there is a limit on how effective you can be at drilling down to those small groups, except that in the 30 or 300 space, encouraging people to find and try. And maybe create some mechanisms to create, to glom on. Yeah. But what I'm saying is I think it does have to be an element of organicness that is part of it is life stuff that's going on together. Sure. The fact that I was literally stuck in his van because I worked for him. Or in the other case, these are guys that we just ended up having coffee regularly, and some people stayed and some people didn't. But I guess what I'm saying is at your level, I think you can teach teachers and you can teach people and you can go down to a certain level, and then you need to focus on whatever you can do to encourage people to keep trying and recognize that not everyone's going to
but what I'm saying is I'm not sure in our current structure that we're teaching teachers. So when I would say when I talk about a teacher, I'm talking about someone who plays with ideas, has an organized mind, and tries to bring order to what they're seeing or doing with their mind and with the way that they explain things. And so like, I think that there's actually a lot more teachers in the church than we currently have. I have been in dynamic environments where a master teacher was training other teachers deeply. Most of those have been paying for seminary. Like I've had some incredibly spiritually formative seminary classes. Now, again, the caveat is this: seminary has the opposite effect for a lot of people also. Like I'm not saying that just happens. And not everybody has the gift of teaching. Like there's I was sitting next to people who had the gift of evangelism and had thought this class was a waste of time, and that's actually fine. Like that they should be doing that. But like I think the thing is there is it feels like there's an opportunity. It feels like there are people who do organize the world with their mind and think these thoughts and want to serve other people with that gift and talk about those things with other people. What I would love to be able to gather those people more effectively into smaller groups, to read alongside each other, to talk about like, okay, how do we love and serve others, not just get into our sort of nerdy niche talking about, whatever interesting topic is going on, but talk about how do we move towards doctrine as direction for life. Like, how do we help people to think better about themselves, about God, about the Bible, and about their world, so that we can live more faithfully as disciples. Right. Does that make sense? So to me, that's like, if I could do anything, it would just be like, let's switch what we mean by teacher. A teacher is someone who's wise, who is energized by and active in passing on wisdom to others. And not everybody has the gift of teaching, but I think the church needs teachers, needs people like that who are able to serve others humbly from that gift, not out of pride. A lot of teachers, their chief fault is that they're arrogant about it. They think they're smarter than other people, and so other people need to listen to them. So anyway, I'd love to know. I mean, am I scratching? Am I speaking to what you were saying, Jared?
No, but I don't know how yet.
So what I'm trying to separate is like discipleship is not just teaching.
Sure.
Teaching is a component of discipleship.
Right.
Yeah.
And by teaching, I just mean helping people to think about themselves, God, the world.
It seems to me that the distinction you're making is like a forked distinction that says teaching, all discipleship is not teaching, which of course I agree with that.
Yeah.
But also what we need to do is become and make better teachers and create a better environment for teaching and teach teachers. And that seems paradoxical to me. It seems that you're saying we need to learn how to do better the elements of discipleship that are not teaching based. And so what I think we should do is create better teachers.
No. What I'm saying is we literally have 3 rhythms, which is gather, equip, and scatter.
Uh-huh.
And the difficulty is that the equipping can be defined as let's just have more classes. Mm-hmm. And there's those classes are good and useful mm-hmm. and do good things, but they're getting 6 inches below the surface mm-hmm. for a lot of people. Yeah. And what you need more time with the people who need that depth, right? Mm-hmm. What I'm saying is actually discipleship equipping in the scheme of things doesn't equip people fully for discipleship. Mm-hmm. Like right. Every ministry we have is a discipleship equipping ministry, right? And I think city groups are the most important ministry at the church. Mm-hmm. The issue is I want to offer 101 classes. I want to mm-hmm. offer genuine introductions to the faith. I want to offer additional classes, kind of deepen people, but there also has to be a 3 and 12 space mm-hmm. where people who are like, I really like helping people to think well about the Bible, God, the world, and to understand themselves. Like that's energizing for me. That's the Spirit has given me this gift, and I want to cultivate that gift. So all I'm saying is, if this is what we're doing, if equipping is primarily about cultivating wisdom, mm-hmm. then we want to do that effectively from top to bottom. At a big level,
and I guess that's what I'm pushing back at. Is I'm saying I'm not sure that you can. I think maybe, and I don't be discouraged by me saying this. I could just be wrong, but maybe the responsibility. Let me look at it this way. Let me flip it to missions, just because I think it might contain it a little easier here for a second. Let's imagine that a certain portion of the church really wants short-term missions. Where can we send our kids? It's mm-hmm. going to be 2-week thing. It's going to be college. It's going to be so much fun. Let's also do some of this stuff. And some people are really critical of that, and some people think, man, those are so great, right? And then there's like another segment of missions that is like, these are these year-long trips. These are people who are really searching. What is God calling me to do mm-hmm. well? And then you've got like the people that our church really supports long-term that are like, this is their life. This mm-hmm. is who they are. This is what they want. And if this is a pipeline and mm-hmm. and this level is not intended to get everyone. Right. It's intended to do 2 things. One, filter some people through to the next level. Mm-hmm. But also there are tangible benefits that are happening at this level. They're just not mm-hmm. the same benefits that are happening at this level, right? Yeah. So there's a pipeline here. Mm-hmm. And the beginning of the pipeline looks pretty silly compared to the top of the pipeline. Sure, right? If you're looking at the work that's being done.
Or it lacks the depth of the top.
Sure, I would even argue it looks silly at times. I mean, painting a school, it's the same school that's been painted every single time we go down. We haven't
hurricanes keep happening.
Hurricanes keep happening. No, but I mean that's the caricature of the church, right? There's a little church in Mexico that gets repainted by every school that comes through here, every church that comes through. Mm-hmm. So you've got this sort of pipeline that is filtering and that does different things in people's lives at different levels, but also some people are getting moved through. What mm-hmm. I'm saying is it's possible that the equipping ministry or a certain element of a missions ministry might be primarily focused around doing this one level well. Mm-hmm. To be what we are is just it's like if I know I'm terrible at sports. I think the Golden Spikes are a baseball team here in Omaha. Maybe that's not right. Storm Chasers? Storm Chasers.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
The Golden Spikes.
I don't think that's a team, but that's okay. It might be somewhere in the world.
What is it? Like, sharing? Leave a comment. Tell me what the real teams are. Anyway, but
we'll have to turn comments on.
We'll do that. But the Storm Chasers are a team. They used to be called the Royals. And the Royals are a feeder team for the real Royals. For the real Royals, right? Mm-hmm. There's the Major League Royals and then there's the Minor League Royals. And the minor league Royals was never trying to be so good that they could beat or can play against the other major league Royals. They were trying to beat the other minor league people, but every now and then they also were feeding people through. Sure. And my point was they had different objectives and a different life that they were trying to do, and then also they're trying to pull people through. Mm-hmm. And I wonder if the same thing might be said of an equipping ministry where I understand that what you want is that pinnacle, that deep disciple, but maybe a lot of the job is just creating a really healthy inch deep ministry that compellingly tempts people to pull through and find the 12-person group that compellingly pulls people, but it doesn't actually provide it itself because it can't at the church.
I get what you're saying. I think you're wrong.
Sure.
And the reason I'm saying that is that, part of what it compels Citylight to establish an equipping ministry is that we need qualified elders. And one of the most important qualifications of the elders is that they have the capacity to teach.
Sure.
And again, my complaint with this is I think Sunday morning preaching is it's associated that sort of whole church gathering is associated with the elder office. So I'm not trying to say I think maybe the pinnacle of this is to lead through preaching in that space. But I also think that essentially people who can do that are basically people who have well-ordered minds to understand Scripture, the world, themselves, and others, and use that sort of structuring of those things to help other people to see better, to see differently. And so what I'm saying is, what I want to do is I want to say, okay, stop when you think about the gift of teaching, just stop thinking of well, I don't know if I could stand on stage in front of 100 people. There's a lot of very gifted people who only ever teach 6 people. Sure. And we need those people to have sort of elder qualifications in their understanding of Scripture and how to apply Scripture in the context that we're in. And so I'm trying to just cast the net wider, because I think there actually are a lot of people at our church who potentially could and need to be formed in a deep way to understand these things better, not because they're going to teach in seminary or they want to do nerdy things, but because we need them to step into responsibilities of authority, which involves taking scriptures and forming people in these ways, even if it's at a smaller level. And but what I'm saying is, this isn't the major leagues. This is just we need people who are equipped to do the highest level of teaching leadership at our church. And we need mechanisms in place to do that. And so part of this call and why, I'm passionate about talking about this is it is actually important to be wise about how you read Scripture. It is actually important to be capable of taking what Scripture says and bringing it into our context and being practical and helpful. And it is actually important to allow Scripture to read you so that you know your heart better. All of these things are vital to have a certain percentage of our people who are skilled at doing this, who can lead in lots of different spaces as teachers. And that's all I'm saying is that I don't think that we're at this point effective at developing that top level, but I do think that what could happen is not that we would invent the perfect program, but people say, hey, look, I think actually what you're talking about is me, and I'd like to be formed that way. If we had, as a result of this, 5 people, 15 people, let's say, let's shoot bigger, who basically said, yeah, that sort of deep formation is what I want to do. I think we could, that would be an investment in our church for 10 years from now. A massive investment in our church, because that's what Jesus was doing. He was spending 3 years with 12 people who then could turn around and lead.
No, this has given me a lot to think about. So there's a city group who 5 of the women. So I had seen especially younger women, but there's been also some other older women that have said, I really want to mentor. I want that deepness. I want that richness that honestly I don't necessarily get on a Sunday morning. And they started a group. It's 8 weeks over a 16-week period. They're meeting every other week. And hoping to take a group of 11 women a little bit deeper.
Right.
And I don't want, the hard part is like, I don't want to establish another, arm that has to do that. Right. But I think it's in some ways what you're talking about. There's some wise women, but they're using a curriculum that's already been developed. They're not actually but they're using that to lead women to think differently. And that could be a component of discipleship equipping.
There's a lot of great resources that we can lean on.
Especially in the summer where there's not like city groups sometimes take a break, Bible studies take a break. But what if we took a group of 12 women or 12 men and said, imagine spending the next few months with a small group of people who really want to go deeper. What does that look like?
Well, it's the reason we talk about books on this podcast is we want to give people a window into, the one we've been going through is Rebecca DeYoung's Glittering Vices. And that's a book that's incredibly powerful in terms of knowing yourself. Like, I didn't think that I was greedy or envious until I read the chapter on envy and was like, holy cow, I actually this is a real problem for me, And so those opportunities are out there. But I hope that we can just awaken in people like, oh yeah, I am a person who wants to be thoughtful about my faith and I need to cultivate this gift and I should seek out someone who can help me and I can seek out resources that would help me with this because it's not just going to happen by showing up for 11 weeks at an equipping thing. That may help you down the road, but this has to be something that people need to be hungry for and see this as the cultivation of a gift that serves the church.
Totally.
Well, he's no longer shaking his head sideways.
That's
now.
Good. That's good. Final thoughts.
Yeah.
What are final thoughts?
We just need a new program. We'll call it the Golden Spikes.
Oh, man.
That's the thing.
Then we need someone to run it. Then we need KPIs for that.
I don't know what it is.
I feel like this podcast has just come to like a crash landing and we're just kind of like that, the plane is like bouncing. And
that's because we've had this conversation.
It hasn't started on fire yet, but
Citylight has had this conversation literally since the beginning, since before I've gotten here, and I've been here for 7 years. It's what is discipleship?
It's a lofty goal.
And so, maybe we continue to think about that. I think there's been some really good thoughts about, okay, how do we get there?
Well, if nothing else, just peel back the curtain a little bit and I don't know if you peel curtains, but anyway.
Onion.
Peel back the layers of the onion. Peel back, pull the curtain back a little bit and let some other people see too, like what the thought that goes into why we do this or why we do that or what do we want to do next.
And maybe if nothing else, we have a space to say, not everyone is a teacher.
Right.
Not everyone needs to go to seminary. I'm just staring at the camera, making sure that people hear this.
Right.
Like cultivate the gifts that God has given to you.
Correct.
But, and by the way, teachers, people with the gift of teaching can be quite annoying because they can be arrogant about their knowledge and they can just get into their own sort of private games, but that's not the way it's intended to be.
Right.
Teaching is a service to the church. There are people who have the gift of understanding and structuring things in a way that's helpful to others, and those people need to be engaged in serving. And so, if you don't have the gift of teaching, find someone who does, who's wise, who can help you, and lean into it. Just like they should also find you if they don't have the gift of evangelism and say, "Hey, bring me along. Help, show me how," because we should be strengthening each other mutually.
Agree.
So, all right. Well, we at least survived the crash landing, I think. Yeah.
Pretty good.
Until next time. Thanks.
Peace and grace.